Western Sahara, also known as the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, is a disputed territory located in North Africa. The region borders Morocco to the north, Algeria to the northeast, Mauritania to the east and south, and the Atlantic Ocean to the west. Western Sahara is home to about 600,000 people, primarily Sahrawis, who are an ethnic group that has inhabited the region for centuries. The territory was formerly a Spanish colony known as Spanish Sahara, but Spain withdrew in 1975. Following Spain's withdrawal, Western Sahara was claimed by both Morocco and the Polisario Front, a nationalist movement that sought to establish an independent state in the territory. A war between the two sides broke out in 1975, and a ceasefire was declared in 1991. Today, the situation in Western Sahara remains unresolved. The Polisario Front controls a portion of the territory, while the rest is under Moroccan control. The United Nations has been involved in trying to resolve the conflict for many years, but a solution has yet to be found. The people of Western Sahara have long struggled to gain independence and have faced human rights abuses, including the suppression of political dissent, restrictions on freedom of speech and assembly, and the use of torture and arbitrary detention by Moroccan authorities. The Polisario Front has also been accused of human rights abuses. The economy of Western Sahara is largely dependent on fishing and phosphate mining. However, much of the natural resources of the region are controlled by Morocco, which has been accused of exploiting these resources without the consent of the Sahrawi people. The future of Western Sahara remains uncertain, and the conflict continues to be a source of tension in the region. The Sahrawi people continue to demand independence and self-determination, while Morocco maintains its claim to the territory. The United Nations continues to facilitate negotiations between the two sides, but a solution to the conflict remains elusive. To add further information, the United Nations has been involved in efforts to resolve the Western Sahara conflict for several decades. The UN Mission for the Referendum in Western Sahara, MINURSO, was established in 1991 to monitor the ceasefire and help organize a referendum on self-determination. However, the referendum has yet to take place due to disagreements over who is eligible to vote. The Polisario Front has called for a referendum in which all Sahrawis would be allowed to vote, including those who have been displaced from the region. Morocco, on the other hand, has proposed a plan for autonomy under Moroccan sovereignty, which the Polisario Front has rejected. In recent years, the issue of Western Sahara has gained increased attention, with some countries and international organizations expressing support for the Sahrawi people's right to self-determination. However, many countries, including the United States, have recognized Moroccan sovereignty over the region. The situation in Western Sahara also has regional implications. Morocco's control of the territory has strained its relations with neighboring Algeria, which supports the Polisario Front. The conflict has also had an impact on regional security, with the presence of armed groups in the region and concerns about the trafficking of weapons and drugs. In conclusion, the conflict in Western Sahara is a complex issue with political, economic, and social dimensions. The Sahrawi people's struggle for self-determination has been ongoing for decades, and the resolution of the conflict remains elusive. The United Nations and other international organizations continue to work towards a peaceful solution, but the situation remains tense, and the future of Western Sahara is uncertain. In terms of geography, Western Sahara is mostly desert, with a few oases and the occasional mountain range. The largest city in the territory is Al Ayoun, which is under Moroccan control. The Sahrawi people, who have lived in the region for centuries, have traditionally been nomadic or semi-nomadic, and have a rich cultural heritage that includes music, dance, and poetry. The issue of human rights abuses in Western Sahara has been a long-standing concern. The Moroccan government has been accused of violating the human rights of the Sahrawi people, including the suppression of political dissent, the use of torture and arbitrary detention, and restrictions on freedom of speech and assembly. The Polisario Front has also been accused of committing human rights abuses, including the use of landmines and the recruitment of child soldiers. In recent years, there has been some progress in addressing human rights abuses in Western Sahara. In 2016, the United Nations Security Council called for the establishment of a human rights monitoring mechanism in the territory, and a mission of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights visited Western Sahara in 2015 and 2019. However, concerns about human rights abuses persist, and more needs to be done to ensure the protection of the rights of the Sahrawi people. In terms of the economy, Western Sahara has significant reserves of phosphate, which is a key ingredient in fertilizer production. However, Much of the phosphate is mined by Moroccan companies, which the Polisario Front has accused of exploiting the natural resources of the region without the consent of the Sahrawi people. Fishing is also an important economic activity in Western Sahara, with the territory's waters being rich in fish. In conclusion, the situation in Western Sahara remains complex and unresolved. The Sahrawi people continue to demand self-determination, while Morocco maintains its claim to the territory. The issue of human rights abuses remains a concern, and the economic exploitation of the region's natural resources has also been a source of controversy. The United Nations and other international organizations continue to work towards a peaceful solution to the conflict, but a resolution remains elusive. In terms of the political situation, the territory of Western Sahara is divided into two parts. The eastern part is controlled by the Polisario Front, which has established a government in exile known as the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, SADR. The Sahara is recognized by over 80 countries, primarily in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. The Polisario Front has also established refugee camps in Algeria, where many Sahrawis who have been displaced from the region live. The western part of Western Sahara, which is the larger portion of the territory, is controlled by Morocco. Morocco claims sovereignty over the entire region, and has built a wall along the border with the Polisario-controlled area to prevent incursions by Polisario fighters. The conflict in Western Sahara has had a significant impact on the region, with concerns about the trafficking of arms and drugs, and the presence of armed groups. There have also been reports of human rights abuses, including the mistreatment of refugees living in the Polisario-controlled camps in Algeria. In recent years, there have been some efforts to find a peaceful resolution to the conflict. In 2018, the United Nations envoy for Western Sahara, Horst Köhler, launched a new round of negotiations between the parties. The talks, which involved Morocco, the Polisario Front, Algeria, and Mauritania, aimed to find a lasting solution to the conflict based on self-determination for the Sahrawi people. However, the talks ended without a breakthrough, and Köhler resigned from his position in 2019. In conclusion, the situation in Western Sahara remains complex and unresolved, with significant political, economic, and social dimensions. The Sahrawi people's struggle for self-determination has been ongoing for decades, and the resolution of the conflict remains elusive. The United Nations and other international organizations continue to work towards a peaceful solution, but the situation remains tense, and the future of Western Sahara is uncertain. The conflict in Western Sahara has also had an impact on regional security and stability. The presence of armed groups in the region, such as Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, AQIM, has raised concerns about terrorism and instability. The trafficking of drugs, arms, and people is also a significant concern, and the region has become a transit point for migrants and refugees seeking to reach Europe. The conflict in Western Sahara has also affected the relationship between Morocco and Algeria, which have been in a state of tension for decades. Algeria has supported the Polisario Front, while Morocco accuses Algeria of providing the group with financial and military support. The dispute over Western Sahara has also had an impact on regional cooperation, and the African Union has been divided over the issue. Morocco withdrew from the African Union in 1984 after the organization recognized the Sahara, but in 2017, Morocco was readmitted to the AU after it was able to gain support for its position on Western Sahara. Despite the challenges, there have been some positive developments in recent years. The United States recognized Moroccan sovereignty over Western Sahara in December 2020, a move that was welcomed by Morocco but criticized by the Polisario Front and other groups. The recognition was part of a broader deal that saw Morocco normalize relations with Israel, and it has been seen as a significant diplomatic victory for Morocco. In conclusion, the conflict in Western Sahara is a complex and long-standing issue that has had significant political, economic, and social impacts on the region. The Sahrawi people's struggle for self-determination remains unresolved, and concerns about human rights abuses, regional security, and stability persist. The international community, including the United Nations, continues to work towards a peaceful resolution of the conflict, but the situation remains tense, and the future of Western Sahara is uncertain. One of the major sources of tension in Western Sahara is the exploitation of natural resources in the region, particularly phosphates and fishing resources. Morocco has granted licenses to international companies to extract phosphates from the region, which has been criticized by the Polisario Front and some international organizations as a violation of international law. The Polisario Front argues that the resources belong to the Sahrawi people and should not be exploited without their consent. The fishing industry is also a significant source of tension. The waters off the coast of Western Sahara are rich in fish, and Morocco has granted fishing licenses to European companies. The Polisario Front has criticized this as a violation of the Sahrawi people's rights and has called for the suspension of fishing licenses until a solution to the conflict is found. The exploitation of natural resources has also had environmental impacts in the region. The extraction of phosphates has caused significant damage to the local environment, including the destruction of fragile ecosystems and the contamination of water sources. Overfishing has also led to a decline in fish stocks, which has had an impact on the livelihoods of local communities. The situation in Western Sahara has also had an impact on the human rights situation in the region. Human rights organizations have documented cases of torture, arbitrary detention, and other abuses by Moroccan security forces in the region. There have also been reports of restrictions on freedom of expression and association, particularly for those who advocate for self-determination for the Sahrawi people. In conclusion, the situation in Western Sahara is complex and multifaceted, with political, economic, social, and environmental dimensions. The exploitation of natural resources, the human rights situation, and regional security concerns are all significant issues that need to be addressed. The resolution of the conflict is key to achieving a lasting peace in the region, and the international community must continue to work towards a peaceful solution that respects the rights of the Sahrawi people.